Look, we always do our pregame picks here, courtesy, of course, Bet365. Espo, if I asked you to set the line for Dillon Brooks getting ejected tonight, what would you set it at?
Pain.
Oh. Psychos and sickos unite for the Revenge Tour edition of PHNX Suns pregame show. Of course, brought to you by our friends over at Gila River Resorts Casinos. You do you at Gila River Resorts Casinos. Visit playedgila.com for more details. I'm so excited I can barely talk. I'm Eric. That's Espo. We got the Deef behind the Mac, the mustache behind the Mac, making all of the magic happen. We hope Ayrton feels a little better. He's under the weather today, but Espo, it's Suns,
I think he's just
Rockets. You think he's ducking us?
I think Ayrton's ducking us.
Well,
he's ducking the Rockets.
Yeah, he's ducking the Rockets.
He's too scared.
He was too scared. Well, look, Ayrton is not the only one missing tonight. A lengthy injury report that we'll get to here in a second. We'll hear from Jordan Ott on some injury updates, on dealing with Houston's unique style of defense. We'll talk about how the Suns win tonight, how important it is for the Suns to win tonight, plus everything in between as well. But first, thank you all for being here. Deborah, Cara, we got Matt to the power of Joe. Great name. Bear the Blader, Justin M. Appreciate all of y'all, all of our members.
Julio,
in here.
Cameron, come on.
I'm just shouting out the
just
members.
Read everybody. You know?
Well, I guess, yeah, Julio
Cameron,
is a member.
Julio, they're all members.
There we go. It feels like everybody in the chat is a member. Shout out to my dad, who's here as well, also a member. Thank you all so much.
Did he pay for his membership?
Yeah, he did.
My wife didn't. She was gifted
it.
Which is just, something I can't get past.
Yeah, he paid for his. At least I think so. I don't think somebody gifted it to him. But obviously, a long injury report tonight, Espo. But how are you feeling as Ayrton's in the chat? I love that. How are you feeling about this game as a whole?
Better than Ayrton's feeling overall. Now, look, tonight's going to be tough. You're playing a very large lineup that Houston has. You are, as everybody knows, a smaller lineup, especially without Mark Williams, without Ryan Dunn, and the guys that aren't going to be in there. This is going to be a difficult game. It was going to be a difficult game even if you were fully healthy, and the fact that obviously the Rockets don't have Kevin Durant is in your benefit, but this is going to be tough. They're the best offensive rebounding team in the league, and you have struggled to keep teams off the glass at times. You're going to have to play a near-perfect game.
Look, we can't wait too long to get into the injury report because it might take the entire show to read it. So let's go ahead and get into it. Of course, presented by our friends over at the Husband and Wife Law Team. If you've had a serious injury, call the Husband and Wife Law Team first at 602-783-8841 or visit their website at husbandandwifelawteam.com. For the Suns, a small bit of good news. Rasheer Fleming was listed as questionable with a left ankle sprain. He ends up being available tonight, playing his first game since cracking the rotation against Portland last week. Jalen Green, of course, continues to be out with a right hamstring strain. Grayson Allen missing now his 5th straight game with a right quad contusion. I didn't say right white. Damn, I did it again. Ryan Dunn out with a right wrist sprain, and Mark Williams out with right knee return from injury management.
No Big Willie style tonight?
No, Kev said it. We got hit with the ED nerf. No Big Willie tonight. Honored, of course, the Rockets side of things. They're no strangers to long injury reports. Fred VanVleet has been out for the entire season as he is recovering from an ACL tear. No Kevin Durant tonight, out for personal reasons, not ducking smoke. There's actually real-life stuff that happens to people. Steven Adams questionable with an ankle injury. Tari Eason is out. Dorian Finney-Smith is out. And Jayshawn Tate is out as well. We'll look for an update on Steven Adams here in a second. But Espo, no Kevin Durant for the Rockets. They still have Şengün. They still have Amen Thompson. Like you mentioned, they're still one of the best, if not they are the best offensive rebounding team in the NBA, and one of the best, honestly, at all time at this rate. Plus, one of the most efficient three-point shooting teams in the NBA. Ime Udoka always has his guys ready to go.
Yeah, and you look at it, and Steven Adams leads the way when it comes to that offensive rebounding. He's averaging 5.2 of the 16.5 that Houston has per game. So you're going to have to figure out a way to keep Steven Adams off the board. But it's tough because really you're down to Nick Richards and Oso Ighodaro because we have just not seen Kaman Malawach get any of those minutes. And I'm not sure if you're going to turn to him early tonight after him not playing. So you're going to have to look to Oso. You're going to have to look to Nick Richards. And while you're trying to focus on Şengün and Adams down low, you also are going to have to keep everybody honest on the perimeter because, as you mentioned, they're shooting 42% from deep. So if you're not swinging on defense and getting to the open guys after you're trying to close out on the guys down low, you're going to give up a large amount of three-pointers tonight. This is probably the most difficult in terms of positional matchup that this Suns team has faced. And that's part of what makes Houston so good is the difference in size that they have compared to other teams. And that's what they're trying to create as they play that two-center lineup to start games.
So who do you think starts for the Suns tonight?
I think Oso starts at center, and I think you keep everything else the same.
You'd be wrong.
Really?
Devin Booker, Jordan Goodwin,
okay,
Dillon Brooks, Royce O'Neal, and Nick Richards getting the start.
Interesting. I mean, I guess you want to go with a little bit more, I don't want to say toughness. That's not fair to Oso, but somebody that's going to get a little bit more physical to start. But there's no good answer tonight here. There's none.
Do you think this kind of falls in the same category as keeping Colin Gillespie off the bench because he has really thrived in that role? You need some creation there. Oso's done really well, of course, playing off of the bench these last couple of games, guarding on the perimeter, switching out, moving the ball, had some great passing as well. He's not the most physical center to go up against Alperen Şengün. Maybe just put the bigger body out there and know that you've still got Oso in the spot that he's been thriving in.
I think it's more the physicality. I don't think it's the fact that you want Oso to stay comfortable with the bench guys. I think it is purely the physicality because you're going to have to let Şengün know you have a body on him and you have him there early. And you're probably going to have to play Richards and Oso together at times tonight just because of the pure size of that lineup. These rotations are going to be vastly different than we've seen. But like we saw in that first matchup against the Spurs, Jordan Ott and this defense can get extremely creative even when they're at a disadvantage size-wise.
Yeah, and obviously a disadvantage because, like we mentioned, Mark Williams not playing on the second end of a back-to-back has been protocol this entire season. Grayson Allen also out. Jordan Ott gave some updates on those two and their recoveries from their injuries or injury management in pregame.
This feels like, the longer he can sustain feeling pretty good, but just that extra time to go from 24 hours to 72 hours is a big deal, especially what we have coming up this week. So I do think it's heading in the right direction.
And then Grayson, I know you said you didn't think it was long term, but now we're going on 5 games. So what's going on with him?
Yeah, still the same. It's just the swelling in there. That's it. But he's feeling in a good place. Seems to take more and more steps, even in the last 24 hours. That is trending in the right direction. But we're going to be smart with this one.
Obviously, the Suns shorthanded Espo, but that's been the same way all season. And one guy that's really stepped up for them has been Dillon Brooks. Obviously, after last night's win against the Spurs, Dillon Brooks specifically said that he's excited to play the Rockets and excited to see Rockets head coach Ime Udoka. Of course, Dillon Brooks coming over from the Rockets via Kevin Durant trade this summer. How excited are you to watch Dillon Brooks, who's been averaging 25 points in his last 5 games, go up against his former team?
I'm hesitantly excited because I also know that we've seen what Dillon Brooks, if not fully disciplined, can do. And I want him to be productively locked in, productively fired up tonight, because this is the kind of game where emotions could take over if you're not careful, if you're not strategic in the way you use that energy. And that's the last thing that you want tonight, is to see Dillon Brooks in any way get himself in foul trouble, get himself, like you said off the top, potentially ejected. Keep it within the lines and don't get overly fired up tonight. That's my biggest concern with this, because you can lose focus when you want to prove a group wrong in a way. Although it was reported that Udoka before the game said that he and Brooks don't have any issues. They even saw each other a couple times since the trade, and everything was fine. So maybe that was more of a just poking fun at him last night than I want to show this guy up.
Could you imagine if Udoka was like, I hate that guy? No, how can you as a coach not like Dillon Brooks, though? Especially like the type of guy that Dillon Brooks is?
Ask Memphis. I mean, they ran him out of town.
That's just
if you liked him that
franchise.
If you liked him that much, why wouldn't you have fought to keep him around? You had multiple options that you could have gone down that path, or you could have stayed the same. Now, he did say that Dillon Brooks helped them set the culture and the tone there in Houston, but obviously he wasn't a big enough part of your plan because you were willing to move off of him and do it pretty quick.
Brian Davis in the chat, what's up, Brian? Asked if we know the Rockets' starting lineup. We do. They are starting Reed Sheppard, who gets his first career start after being on a hell of a stretch recently.
He's made 5 3-pointers per game over the last 10 games.
He has been shooting the lights out of the ball. He gets his first career start. Josh Okogie, former Phoenix Sun, starting at shooting guard for the Houston Rockets. Amen Thompson at the 3, Jabari Smith Jr. at the 4, and of course, All-Star Alperen Şengün at the 5. What I'm curious as far as matchups go is I understand that you probably put Nick Richards in there to be a big body dealing with Şengün. I wouldn't be surprised if Dillon Brooks gets the Şengün matchup, at least sometimes, because he's guarded him in practice. He's been on his team. Dillon Brooks has been one of the best forwards at guarding bigs. Last year, he was one of the most effective forwards at guarding Victor Wembanyama. And so I wonder if, even though he's a different type of center than Wemby, who can be pushed off of his spot a little bit easier, if you put your best defender on their best player, or if you live with big body Nick Richards.
I think if you were going to put Dillon on Şengün, you would have started Oso. I think that would have been the way you went. I think you're going to probably put Dillon on Amen Thompson and try to slow him down. Maybe you switch on Reed Sheppard if he gets hot. I really think if you went Nick Richards in this, you want him up against Şengün and kind of trying to push him around down there. Now, he won't be very effective, I'm sure, but you don't want to. I don't think you want to give up anything in terms of physicality.
No, and it's funny. Somebody mentions it in there. It's math to the power of Joe. Says Brooks isn't the only one looking for revenge in the game. Josh Okogie. We've seen Josh catch fire and actually do good things on the offensive end on random nights. I wouldn't be surprised if tonight was that night. No KD for them, no Fred VanVleet for them. I feel like he might be the guy who goes out there and says, you know what? It's Josh Okogie's night.
You hope Josh Okogie has the over-emotional night, the too hyped up to be effective night, and not Dillon Brooks in coming back to Phoenix to play. Look, there's nobody that you can overlook in the Houston lineup, not even Josh Okogie, because like you said, we know he can get hot. This is a tough defensive matchup overall, but I do like that this team, regardless of who's been out there on the court for them, regardless of who they've been up against, they've shown grit, they've shown tenacity on the defensive end, and they've been pretty damn good at forcing turnovers as well. I mean, they've done a great job, and they have the 7th highest rate in pressing this season of any team defensively. So they're aggressive, and you're going to need that tonight. You're going to need to force some turnovers.
Yeah, you're going to need to force some turnovers. We'll have some Rockets talk here from Jordan Ott in a second, but just some context on the Suns in general. Since starting 1-4, the Suns have been number 7 in offensive rating, number 2 in defensive rating, and number 3 in net rating. That's good for a 10-2 record, beating the Spurs twice, the Trailblazers, and the Timberwolves in those 12 games. The Suns have been, bar none, one of the best teams in the NBA since the first 5 games of the season, and they've done it, missing Dillon Brooks for a good chunk of that. Of course, missing Jalen Green for a vast majority of that, missing Grayson Allen now for 5 games. So they have been constantly next man up, next man up, next man up. This is also a Rockets team that's been doing the same. The Rockets also are the team that spends the most amount of time in zone in the NBA this season. Steven talked to Coach Ott pregame about the plan versus their 2-3 zone.
First thing, you want to play fast. You don't want to let them set up. That would be the initial. We don't want to then set up a half-court set. You want to get into some of your flow triggers. So some of our flow triggers are the same against the zone as we have in man. It's the same thing. How can we get into the paint? How can we find high-quality shots? Zone takes away the rim. We got to find a way to at least touch the paint, then kick out those higher quality threes, and then find an extra possession. You know, that's probably the next piece that we got to do. We got to get to the glass a little bit more against the zone. Don't let it frustrate us. Don't let it stagnate us. Still attack the gaps, trying to hunt those high quality shots. And at the 3-2 that we saw in Portland, when we can run a little bit more man concepts, this is, you know, more of a traditional 2-3 zone where they'll move their X5 up, you know, when we play pick and roll. So we anticipate them playing zone, but we're going to have to do some of the same man content. We don't want to slow down. Don't let it slow you down. Try to still get high quality shots.
Yeah, you're going to need Devin to hit tonight. This is not a game that you can have him have a third straight offensive performance that leaves you wanting more. You're going to need him to hit those jumpers. You're going to have to swing that ball around fast and try to catch them off guard tonight. And like Coach said, you're going to have to find ways to get in the paint to then open up as they collapse on you there. This is probably the toughest challenge they've had
for sure
all year based on who they have out there as well.
Yeah, especially because you look at a couple guys that could be good zone breakers for this team. I mean, Grayson Allen is a three-point shooter and is somebody who can also drive off of the threat of his three-point shot. Him being out is a big deal. Obviously, Jalen Green, one of those guys as well as a creator. I think this is a big Royce O'Neal game, because you're going to need to find guys with good ball movement. Royce has had some really good moments being a connector, and he's going to need to hit some threes. Obviously, we know Book is going to try to get into his bag and create. On most nights, he's going to play really well. The last two haven't been the case. And we know Dillon Brooks is going to be looking for his own shot, posting up, taking off the dribble threes, driving. He's averaging 25 over his last 5, averaging over 20 for the season. And obviously, he's going to be fired up as well, but you need some guys to hit some catch and shoot threes. Obviously, you're also missing Ryan Dunn, who's really good at cutting, and that also breaks his zone, so he's out tonight. You're going to need everybody to step up. Obviously, we've looked at Jordan Goodwin the last couple of games. He's been fantastic, fresh off of his first start for the Suns, recording a double-double. Colin Gillespie has been on a tear this entire season as well. How important do you see those two guys tonight?
They're going to be integral in what you're doing, because they've both been very good on the defensive end, and a way to stop the zone is not letting them get into it by forcing a turnover, running and being able to score in transition. And that is a big deal tonight. And right now, they're forcing turnovers of 16.9% rate, which is the third highest in the league. And you got to do that tonight. You got to keep the pressure on them, and you've got to find ways to get out there and run against this team as well.
And this is a team in Houston that's obviously missing their top offensive option in Kevin Durant. And sometimes this season it has been Kevin Durant, go save us. I do wonder if they lose a little bit of their flow on offense. Obviously, they've been going a lot through Alperen Şengün as well, and he's still on the court. Some would argue he has been their best player this season, which isn't a knock at Kevin Durant, but more a nod to how good he has been as he continues to ascend in his career. I wonder if there's maybe a slow start for Houston in this game, and if the Suns can take advantage of that, because we've seen the last couple of games they haven't had the fastest start against Portland, and of course last game as well they didn't have the fastest start against San Antonio. So you're hoping that they can go out there, strike first and strike early, don't let Houston get confident. But maybe this is the Reed Shepherd game, maybe this is the Amen Thompson game.
See, I think you let it be the Alperen Şengün game, and you
might not have a choice.
You try to stop the perimeter shooting, and then you hope you can win the 3-point battle and tip the math in your favor. Let Şengün get his down low and trade 2 for 3 and make sure that you prevent them from getting good looks and from hitting at that 42% clip from deep. And then you hope that you're hitting yours in that way, because you're going to wind up giving up something tonight. And I think I'd much rather it be those 2-point shots.
Well, we've seen the Suns win games where an opponent goes off. Anthony Edwards scored over 40. Suns found a way to beat the Timberwolves. And when you look at the threes, yes, they hit it at a 42% clip. They also take it as one of the least frequent teams in the entire NBA. So they're not going to take a ton of threes. And obviously, one of their best shooters in Kevin Durant isn't out there tonight. I do wonder if that becomes a factor that leans in the Suns' favor, who takes a lot of threes, no matter who's on the court. Obviously, we've talked about some of our keys to the game. Steven, who is at the Morgue, of course, he's at every single home game. He always sends us his keys to the game as well. Let's go ahead and get into those. Key number 1 is dictate with pickup points and denial. Key number 2 is dominate the turnover margin. And key number 3 is ball movement plus paint touch to 3-point attempts flow offensively. Espo, which one of those 3 are you keeping an eye on the most tonight?
Well, since Steven essentially agreed with me, all 3 of them, but I think it's probably dominate the turnover margin.
Yeah, I mean, if you can create extra shots and get more possessions than Houston, who creates a lot of possessions with their ungodly offensive rebounding rate, that would go a long way in kind of evening out how they're going to dominate that end. Well, I would be shocked if the Suns don't get dominated on the offensive boards tonight.
Well, I mean, you needed every single one of those extra shot opportunities that you got last night in particular, and it's happened a couple times this year where you needed those extra chances and you were generating that via turnover. So yeah, you've got to win that and win that significantly tonight. And they did it last night. They found a way to cut down on those turnovers, going from 27 to 6 in a 1-game span. You need to keep it closer to that 6 number tonight and force the issue on the other end.
Of course, this is now the 3rd game into what a lot have deemed a wake-up call for the Phoenix Suns as far as the schedule goes. They're 2-0. They've beat the Timberwolves, and of course, they've beat the San Antonio Spurs. Hell, some people included Portland in that as well. You could say that they're already that far into it. So when you look at tonight, Espo, you're coming off the second end of a back-to-back. You're extremely shorthanded. How big of a game is this? Let's go ahead and get into our Suns must-win meter. It averages out to a 5.9. I'm at a 9.8 because I'm always at a 9.8. Yeah. Steven is at a 6. Espo, you're all the way down at a 2. Why so low?
Because Houston hasn't played since Friday. They've had 2 nights off. You've got the Suns on a back-to-back. They're missing Mark Williams. You've had 2 big wins. You're playing Sacramento on Wednesday. There's no pressure to win this one. This is one you don't walk away with it. So be it. All right. Then you move on. You take care of business against Sacramento. If you get the win, fantastic. And it's another one. But to me, this isn't some high-pressured must-win kind of situation.
Look, I'm going to bring up what I have been bringing up when it comes to teams that are going to be close to you in the Western Conference standings.
It's the end of November.
I don't care.
I don't care.
I don't care if it's the end of November because of the fact that I'll bring it up every single time. The Western Conference, the 2 seed to like the 8th seed was decided by 2 games last year. And if you are going to pick up some early wins against Houston, San Antonio, Minnesota, these are teams realistically, Portland, you're going to be competing with in play-in or playoff style right now, which you are in. Houston's a game and a half ahead of you. I'm just saying that these games do matter a little bit more. And also, I'm here for Dillon Brooks getting revenge on the Rockets. Rockets fans have been the epicenter of trash talking the Suns on socials. They're calling us frauds, blah, 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 blah. Like, look, we got it. I want to get this win over Houston.
But they're going to talk their crap regardless. They'll be like, well, you didn't beat us with KD, so what does it matter? Like,
scoreboard.
You're not going to change anything in that dialogue. And based on your thinking here, everything is a must-win. Every game, all season.
Now you're catching on.
So this is a dumb argument. If we're going to play this game, at least let's have some actual conversation.
Look, when they're playing Sacramento, I think that's different, right?
Because Sacramento that is a must-win because Sacramento sucks.
Here's the thing. Now
you don't lose to teams that you're supposed to win.
See, I've shifted, though, because I see the games against teams like this is now more important than those bottom dwellers in Sacramento. You know what? That's what we can dine at the finer restaurants now. We can have higher standards now as Phoenix Suns fans.
So you're going to have a less of a must-win when you play Sacramento,
absolutely.
Even though that is a game that you're supposed to win. That is a must-win.
If they lose today, then it's a 10 against Sacramento.
Shane, can you weigh in on this, please? Can you throw a life raft?
I don't want to get in between family business.
Well, look.
I'm not sitting out because of it, though.
The personal matters. Look, you and I can disagree on if it's a must-win or not.
Thank you, Sergio. Espo is right on this.
I mean, we have Wow Factor saying I'm cooking.
But normally commenters don't hold anyway, but that's Clippy.
And that, which means
Clippy knows all.
It's exactly what you need to know right there.
Clippy knows all.
Metal Mike is so wrong. I mean, it's tough to be wrong tonight.
You know what? I think we're all entitled to our own must-win opinions, and that's okay. That's why we do the Suns must-win meter. That's why it's 3 different ones.
Steven is just so happy that he's not here.
He's at a 6. Steven is at a reasonable 6, per usual. You had a 2 is crazy. A 2 is crazy.
context means nothing to you.
That's
in
not
this.
true. Context means everything. I presented you.
No, your
with the
context is so skewed.
Well, look, the context is the context. The line is the line. Let's go ahead and take a look at it, presented by our friend over at Bet365. The Suns plus 6.5 on the spread at home, plus 195 on the money line. The Rockets minus 6.5 on the spread, minus 240 on the money line. How are you feeling about that line, Espo?
Seems about right to me with where the expectations are. Now, the Suns have been 9-1 in their last 10 against the spread at home, so they don't seem to really give a crap what the odds makers think about them, especially in these home games. So I think this will probably be closer than 6.5, but this is their job, so they throw that out there to try to get the money on it, and it's gone more in Houston's favor as the day's gone out. So yeah, I believe it was 5.5 earlier today. So
okay, well, look, that's what the line is. Let's go ahead and get into our pregame picks, of course, presented by Bet365. Sign up, use code PHNX365, deposit 10, place a bet for 5 and get $150 in bonus bets. If your bet wins or loses, bonus bets can be used on spreads, totals, player props, futures, and more. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 plus and physically located in Arizona. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP, text NEXT-STEP to 52342, or visit problemgambling.az.gov. Let's go ahead and just get right into your bets. Espo, what are you putting your money on tonight?
It's the Oso Ighodaro game. I'm betting on my fellow Chandler kid, Oso Ighodaro, 15-plus points, 3-plus assists, and 5-plus rebounds at a plus 2,200. Gonna put me in the lead tonight.
That would be a pretty big game from Oso. Did you think he was starting tonight when you put that money on him?
I think it doesn't matter.
I think he'll probably still lead the team in minutes. I think it's going to be like a test the water situation with Nick Richards. Be like, are we getting a good Nick Richards game or a bad Nick Richards game? Okay, and then we'll make our decision from there.
I will know within the first minute and a half.
When he throws the ball directly to the other team or out of bounds? Yeah, probably. For mine, I'm also going with a singular player. But you know what? I believe in Dillon Brooks. By the way, I believe in him to go off against his former team. Give me Dillon Brooks over 25 points, Dillon Brooks over 1.5 stocks, and Dillon Brooks over 5.5 rebounds and assists at a plus 675. So not a crazy line, but still a pretty good one. Nonetheless, obviously, we've given our Suns must-win meter. We've given our bets. We've talked about the injury report. We've heard from Coach Ott. We've heard from Steven. There's only one thing left to do, Espo, and let's talk about who's winning this damn game. Drop your score predictions in chat as we will show you ours. Steven and I rolling with the Red Hot Suns. Steven, 111 to 108. I'm going 104, 102, both in favor of the Suns. Espo, a 2-point loss for the Suns tonight.
Yeah, Suns cover the spread, but I think Houston gets the better of them at the end. I just think the size differential is going to be a little too difficult for them. Plus, the Suns digging deep into their bench. I want to. There's a lot of questions about where you can watch the game tonight.
You do a watch along with us.
You can watch it on Peacock. There is no local TV, so you don't have that option. But if you have YouTube TV, there is NBC Sports Network on YouTube TV, and you can watch the game there as well. So a few options for you to catch the Suns tonight. Plus, like Eric mentioned, if you can't watch the game, you can watch us do the watch along. So.
Got some predictions in chat. Beer is good as usual, picking the opposing team. Rockets 118 to Suns 103. Russell taking Suns win 125 to 107. Sean says Suns win by 4 to 6 points. Zeke says 119 to 111 Suns. Any final thoughts, Espo, before we head over to a watch along?
No, just go out there, take care of your business, be the defensive team that you've been all year. Give yourself a chance to win this one.
Let's go, Dillon Brooks. We'll see y'all soon.
We all silly like the mayor.